Shophetim chapter 1. And it came to be after the death of Yehoshua that the children of Israel asked Yahweh, saying, Who of us should go up first against the Canaanites to fight against them? And Yahweh said, Yehudah does go up. See, I have given the land into his hand. And Yehudah said to Shimon his brother, Come up with me into my allotment, and let us fight against the Canaanites, and I myself shall also go with you into your allotment. So Shimon went with him. And Yehudah went up, and Yahweh gave the Canaanites and the Perizzites into their hand, and they struck 10,000 men at Bezek. And they found Adoni-Bezek in Bezek, and fought against him, and struck the Canaanites and the Perizzites. But Adoni-Bezek fled, and they pursued him, and caught him, and cut off his thumbs and big toes. And Adoni-Bezek said, 70 sovereigns with their thumbs and big toes cut off used to gather food under my table. As I have done, so Elohim has repaid me. And they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died there. And the children of Yehudah fought against Jerusalem, and captured it, and struck it with the edge of the sword, and set the city on fire. And afterward the children of Yehudah went down to fight against the Canaanites who dwelt in the mountains, in the south, and in the low country. And Yehudah went against the Canaanites who dwelt in Hebron. Now the name of Hebron was formerly Kiriath Arba, and they struck Sheshai and Achiman and Talmai. And from there they went against the inhabitants of Debir. Now the name of Debir was formerly Kiriath Sefer. And Caleb said, He who smites Kiriath Sefer and shall capture it, to him I shall give my daughter Achsah as wife. And Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, captured it, and he gave him his daughter Achsah as wife. And it came to be, when she came in, that she urged him to ask her father for a field. And when she got off from her donkey, Caleb said to her, What is the matter? And she said to him, Give me a blessing. Since you have given me the land in the south, give me also springs of water. So Caleb gave her the upper springs and the lower springs. And the children of the Kenite, father-in-law of Moshe, went up from the city of palms with the children of Yehudah into the wilderness of Yehudah, which is in the Negev of Arad, and they went and dwelt among the people. And Yehudah went with Shimon his brother, and they struck the Canaanites who inhabited Sephath, and put it under the ban. So the name of the city was called Hormah. And Yehudah captured Azar and its border, and Ashkelon and its border, and Ekron and its border. And Yahweh was with Yehudah, so they took possession of the mountains, but they were unable to drive out the inhabitants of the plain, because they had chariots of iron. And they gave Hebron to Caleb, as Moshe had said, and he drove out from there the 3 sons of Anak. However, the children of Benjamin did not drive out the Jebusites who inhabited Jerusalem, so the Jebusites had dwelt with the children of Benjamin in Jerusalem to this day. And the house of Yosef also went up against Bethel, and Yahweh was with them. And the house of Yosef sent men to spy out Bethel. Now the name of the city was formerly Luz. And the watchmen saw a man coming out of the city, and they said to him, Please show us the entrance to the city, and we will show you loving commitment. So he showed them the entrance to the city, and they struck the city with the edge of the sword, but the man and all his clan they let go. And the man went to the land of the Hittites and built a city, and called its name Luz, which is its name to this day. And Manasseh did not dispossess Beth Sha'an and its villages, nor Tanaach and its villages, nor the inhabitants of Dor and its villages, nor the inhabitants of Yivlaam and its villages, nor the inhabitants of Megiddo and its villages, for the Canaanites desired to dwell in that land. And it came to be, when Israel was strong, that they put the Canaanites into compulsory labor, but did not completely drive them out. Neither did Ephraim drive out the Canaanites who dwelt in Gezer, so the Canaanites dwelt in their midst in Gezer. Neither did Zebulun drive out the inhabitants of Kitron, or the inhabitants of Nahalol, so the Canaanites dwelt in their midst, and became compulsory labor. Neither did Asher drive out the inhabitants of Akko, nor the inhabitants of Sidon, nor of Achlav, nor of Achziv, nor of Helba, nor of Afik, nor of Reh. Asherites dwelt in the midst of the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, for they did not drive them out. Neither did Naphtali drive out the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh, nor the inhabitants of Beth Anath, but they dwelt among the Canaanites, the inhabitants of the land, and the inhabitants of Beth Shemesh and of Beth Anath became compulsory labor for them. And the Amorites pressed the children of Dan into the mountains, for they would not allow them to come down to the valley. And the Amorites desired to dwell in Mount Heres, in Ayalon, and in Sha'alvim, but when the hand of the house of Yosef became stronger, they became compulsory labor. And the border of the Amorites was from the ascent of Akrabim, from Selah and upward. Chapter 2. And the messenger of Yahweh came up from Gilgal to Bochim, and said, I led you up from Mitzrayim and brought you to the land of which I swore to your fathers, and I said, I do not break my covenant with you. And as for you, do not make a covenant with the inhabitants of this land. Break down their slaughter places, but you have not obeyed my voice. What is this you have done? Therefore I also said, I am not driving them out before you, and they shall be as adversaries to you, and their mighty ones shall be a snare to you. And it came to be when the messenger of Yahweh spoke these words to all the children of Israel, that the people lifted up their voice and wept. So they called the name of that place Bochim, and slaughtered there to Yahweh. Then Yehoshua dismissed the people, and the children of Israel went each to his own inheritance to possess the land. And the people served Yahweh all the days of Yehoshua, and all the days of the elders who outlived Yehoshua, who had seen all the great works of Yahweh which he had done for Israel. And Yehoshua son of Nun, the servant of Yahweh, died 110 years old. And they buried him within the borders of his inheritance at Timnath Heres, in the mountains of Ephraim, on the north side of Mount Gaash. And all that generation were likewise gathered to their fathers, and another generation arose after them who did not know Yahweh, nor the work which he had done for Israel. Then the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and served the Baals, and forsook Yahweh Elohim of their fathers, who had brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, and went after other mighty ones of the people who were all around them, and they bowed down to them and provoked Yahweh. So they forsook Yahweh and served Baal and the Ashtaroths, and the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Israel. Therefore he gave them into the hands of plunderers who despoiled them, and he sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, and they were unable to stand before their enemies any longer. Wherever against them for evil, as Yahweh had spoken, and as Yahweh had sworn to them, and they were distressed greatly. Then Yahweh raised up rulers who saved them from the hand of those who plundered them. However, they did not listen to their rulers either, but went whoring after other mighty ones, and bowed down to them. They soon turned aside from the way in which their fathers walked. In obeying the commands of Yahweh, they did not do so. And when Yahweh raised up rulers for them, Yahweh was with the ruler and saved them from the hand of their enemies all the days of the ruler. For Yahweh had compassion on their groaning because of those who oppressed them and crushed them. And it came to be when the ruler was dead that they would turn back and do more corruptly than their fathers, to go after other mighty ones, to serve them and bow down to them. They did not refrain from their practices and from their stubborn way. And the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Israel, and he said, Because this nation has transgressed my covenant, that I commanded their fathers, and has not obeyed my voice, I also shall no longer drive out before them any of the nations which Yehoshua left when he died, in order to try Israel by them, whether they would guard the way of Yahweh, to walk in them as their fathers guarded them or not. So Yahweh left those nations, without driving them out at once, and did not give them into the hand of Yehoshua. Chapter 3. And these are the nations which Yahweh left, to try Israel by them, all those who had not known all the battles in Canaan, only that the generations of the children of Israel might know, to teach them battle, only those who before did not know them. 5 princes of the Philistines, and all the Canaanites, and the Sidonians, and the Hivites who dwelt in Mount Lebanon, from Mount Baal Hermon to the entrance of Hamath. And they were to try Israel by them, to know whether they would obey the commands of Yahweh, which he had commanded their fathers by the hand of Moshe. Thus the children of Israel dwelt in the midst of the Canaanites, the Hittites and the Amorites, the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and they served their mighty ones. Thus the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and forgot Yahweh the Elohim, and served the Baals and the Asherahs. And the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of Machon Shilo, sovereign of Aram Naharaim. And the children of Israel served Machon Shilo 8 years. And when the children of Israel cried out to Yahweh, Yahweh raised up a Saviour for the children of Israel, who saved them, Othniel son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. And the Spirit of Yahweh came upon him, and he ruled Israel and went out to battle. And Yahweh gave into his hand Machon Shilo, sovereign of Aram Naharaim. And his hand prevailed over Machon Shilo, and the land had rest for 40 years. Then Othniel son of Kenaz died, and the children of Israel again did evil in the eyes of Yahweh. And Yahweh made Eglon, sovereign of Moab, strong against Israel, because they had done evil in the eyes of Yahweh. And he gathered to himself the children of Ammon and Amalek, and went and struck Israel, and they took possession of the city of palms. And the children of Israel served Eglon, sovereign of Moab, 18 years. And when the children of Israel cried out to Yahweh, Yahweh raised up a Saviour for them, Ehud, son of Gera, a Benjamite, a man impeded in his right hand, and by him the children of Israel sent a present to Eglon, sovereign of Moab. And Ehud made himself a sword. It was double-edged and a cubit in length, and he girded it unto his long robe on his right thigh. And he brought the present to Eglon, sovereign of Moab. Now Eglon was a very fat man, and it came to be that when he had finished bringing near the present, he sent away the people bearing the present. But he himself turned back from the stone images that were at Gilgal, and said, I have a secret message for you, O sovereign. And he said, Be silent. And all those standing beside him went out from him. And Ehud came to him while he was sitting in his cool roof room. And Ehud said, I have a message from Elohim for you. So he arose from his seat. And Ehud reached with his left hand, and took the sword from his right thigh, and thrust it into his stomach. And the handle went in after the blade, and the fat closed over the blade, for he did not draw the sword out of his stomach, and it came out behind. Then Ehud went out to the porch, and shut the doors of the upper room behind him, and locked them. And when he had gone out, his servants came to look, and saw the doors of the roof room were locked. So they said, He is only covering his feet in the cool roof room. And they waited until they were ashamed, but saw he was not opening the doors of the upper room. So they took the key and opened them, and saw their master fallen to the ground, dead. But while they were delaying, Ehud escaped, and had passed beyond the stone images, and escaped to Srayah. And it came to be, when he arrived, that he blew the shofar in the mountains of Ephraim, and the children of Israel went down with him from the mountains, with him leading them. And he said to them, Follow me, for Yahweh has given your enemies the Moabites into your hand. And they went down after him, and took the fords of Jordan leading to Moab, and did not allow anyone to pass over. And they struck about 10,000 men of Moab at that time, all robust and brave men, and not a man escaped. And on that day Moab was humbled under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest for 80 years. And after him was Shamgar, son of Anath, and he struck 600 men of the Philistines with an ox goad, and he too saved Israel. Chapter 4. And when Ehud was dead, the children of Israel again did evil in the eyes of Yahweh. Therefore Yahweh sold them into the hand of Yavin, the sovereign of Canaan, who reigned in Hatzor, and the commander of the army was Sisera, who was dwelling in Harosheth Hagoim. And the children of Israel cried out to Yahweh, because he had 900 chariots of iron, and for 20 years he harshly oppressed the children of Israel. And Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapithoth, was ruling Israel at that time. And she was dwelling under the palm tree of Deborah, between Ramah and Bethel, in the mountains of Ephraim. And the children of Israel came up to her for right ruling. And she sent and called for Barak, son of Avinoam, from Kadesh in Naphtali. And she said to him, Has not Yahweh Elohim of Israel commanded, Go, and you shall draw towards Mount Tabor, and shall take with you 10,000 men of the sons of Naphtali and of the sons of Zebulun. And I shall draw unto you Sisera, the commander of Yavin's army, with his chariots and his company at the Wadi Kishon, and shall give him into your hand. And Barak said to her, If you go with me, then I shall go, but if you do not go with me, I do not go. And she said, I shall certainly go with you, only there shall be no esteem for you in the journey you are taking, for Yahweh is going to sell Sisera into the hand of a woman. So Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh. And he went up, 10,000 men under his command, and Deborah went up with him. And Heber the Kenite of the children of Chovav, the father-in-law of Moshe, had separated himself from the Kenites, and pitched his tent near the terebinth tree at Sa'anaim, which is beside Kadesh. And they reported to Sisera that Barak, son of Avinoam, had gone up to Mount Tabor. So Sisera called all his chariots, 900 chariots of iron, and all the people who were with him, from Harosheth Hagoyim to the Wadi Kishon. And Deborah said to Barak, Rise up, for this is the day in which Yahweh has given Sisera into your hand. Has not Yahweh gone out before you? And Barak went down from Mount Tabor with 10,000 men after him. And Yahweh destroyed Sisera and all his chariots and all his army with the edge of the sword before Barak. And Sisera leapt from his chariot and fled away on foot. But Barak pursued the chariots and the army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim, and all the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword, not one was left. Sisera, meanwhile, had fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, for there was peace between Yavin, sovereign of Chatzor, and the house of Heber the Kenite. And Jael went out to meet Sisera, and said to him, Turn aside, my master, turn aside to me, do not fear. So he turned aside with her into the tent, and she covered him with a blanket. And he said to her, Please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. So she opened a bottle of milk and gave him a drink and covered him. And he said to her, Stand at the door of the tent, and it shall be, if anyone comes and asks you and says, Is there a man here? You shall say, No. But Jael, Heber's wife, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand, and went softly to him and drove the peg into the side of his head. And it went down into the ground, for he was fast asleep and exhausted, and he died. And see, as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him and said to him, Come, let me show you the man whom you are seeking. And when he went into her tent, there lay Sisera, dead with the peg in the side of his head. And on that day Elohim humbled Yavin, sovereign of Canaan, in the presence of the children of Israel. And the hand of the children of Israel grew stronger and stronger against Yavin, sovereign of Canaan, until they had cut off Yavin, sovereign of Canaan. Chapter 5. And on that day Deborah and Barak, son of Avinoam, sang, saying, For leaders leading in Israel, for the people volunteering, bless Yahweh. Hear, O sovereigns, give ear, O princes. I do sing to Yahweh. I sing praises to Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. Yahweh, when you went out from Seir, when you stepped from the field of Edom, the earth shook and the heavens poured, the clouds also poured water. The mountains flowed at the presence of Yahweh, this Sinai at the presence of Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, the son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were deserted, and the travellers went in crooked ways. Leadership ceased. It ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose. A mother in Israel arose. They chose new mighty ones. Then fighting was in the gates. Neither a shield nor spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. My heart is towards the inscribers of Israel, the volunteers among the people. Bless Yahweh. You who ride on white donkeys, you who sit on rich carpets, and you who walk along the way, declare it. By the voice of shouters between the places of drawing water, there they recount the righteous acts of Yahweh, the righteous acts of his leadership in Israel. Then the people of Yahweh shall go down to the gates. Wake up, Devorah. Wake up, sing a song. Arise, Barak, and lead your captives away, O son of Avinoam. Then he set the remnant to rule the nobles. Yahweh came down for me against the mighty ones. Out of Ephraim their root is against Amalek. After you, Benjamin, with your peoples, out of Machir, inscribers came down, and out of Zebulun those who handle the scribes read. And the heads of Yisachar were with Devorah, and as Yisachar, so was Barak sent into the valley under his command. Among the divisions of Reuven there were great searchings of heart. Why did you remain among the sheepfolds, to hear the bleatings of the flocks? The divisions of Reuven have great searchings of heart. Gilad remained beyond the Yarden, and why did Dan remain on ships? Asher continued at the seashore and remained by its landing places. Zebulun is a people who risked their lives to the point of death, Naphtali also on the heights of the field. Sovereigns came, they fought, then the sovereigns of Canaan fought in Tanaach, by the waters at Megiddo. They took no spoils of silver. From the heavens they fought, the stars from their courses fought against Sisera. The wadi of Kishon swept them away, that age-old wadi, the wadi of Kishon, O my being, you have trampled in strength. Then stamped hooves of horses, with the galloping of his steeds. Curse Meroz, said a messenger of Yahweh. Curse its inhabitants, because they did not come to the help of Yahweh, to the help of Yahweh among the mighty. Blessed above women is Yael, the wife of Hever, the Kenite. Above women in tents she is blessed. He asked for water, she gave milk. She brought out curdled milk in a bowl for nobles. She stretched her hand to the tent peg, and her right hand to the workman's hammer. Then she pounded Sisera, she smashed his head, she pierced and struck through the side of his head. Between her feet he bowed, he fell, he lay still. Between her feet he bowed, he fell. Where he bowed, there he fell, destroyed. Through the window the mother of Sisera looked, and cried out through the lattice, Why does his chariot delay to come? Why have the steps of his chariot tarried? The wise ones of her princesses answered her, indeed she answered herself. Do they not find and divide the spoil, a girl or two for each man, a spoil of dyed work for Sisera, a spoil of dyed work embroidered, dyed work richly embroidered for the necks of the looter? So do all your enemies perish, O Yahweh, but let those who love him be like the sun rising in its might. And the land had rest 40 years. Chapter 6. And the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and Yahweh gave them into the hand of Midian for 7 years. And the hand of Midian was strong against Israel, and before the faces of the Midianites the children of Israel made for themselves the refuges which are in the mountains, and the caves, and the strongholds. And it came to be, whenever Israel had sown, that Midian would come up, and Amalek and the people of the east would come up against them, and encamp against them, and destroy the increase of the soil as far as Azar, and leave no food in Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor donkey. For they came up with their livestock and their tents, coming in as numerous as locusts, and they and their camels were without number, and they came into the land to destroy it. Thus Israel was brought very low because of Midian, and the children of Israel cried out to Yahweh. And it came to be, when the children of Israel cried out to Yahweh because of Midian, that Yahweh sent a prophet to the children of Israel, who said to them, Thus said Yahweh Elohim of Israel, I have brought you up from Mitzrayim, and I brought you out of the house of bondage, and I delivered you out of the hand of the Mitzrites, and out of the hand of all your oppressors, and drove them out before you, and gave you their land. And I said to you, I am Yahweh your Elohim. Do not fear the mighty ones of the Amorites, in whose land you dwell, and you have not obeyed my voice. And the messenger of Yahweh came and sat under the terebinth tree, which is in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Aviezerite, while his son Gideon threshed wheat in the winepress to hide it from the eyes of the Midianites. And the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him and said to him, Yahweh is with you, you mighty brave one. And Gideon said to him, O my master, if Yahweh is with us, why has all this come upon us? And where are all his wonders which our fathers related to us, saying, Did not Yahweh bring us up from Mitzrayim? But now Yahweh has left us and given us into the hands of Midian. And Yahweh turned to him and said, Go in this strength of yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you? And he said to him, O Yahweh, with what do I save Israel? See, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. And Yahweh said to him, Because I am with you, you shall strike the Midianites as one man. And he said to him, Please, if I have found favor in your eyes, then show me a sign that it is you who are speaking with me. Please do not move away from here until I come to you and bring out my offering and set it before you. And he said, I shall stay until you return. And Gideon went in and prepared a young goat and unleavened bread from an ephah of flour. The meat he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot. And he brought them out to him under the terebinth tree and presented it. And the messenger of Elohim said to him, Take the meat and the unleavened bread and lay them on this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so. And the messenger of Yahweh put forth the end of his staff that was in his hand, and touched the meat and the unleavened bread, and fire went up out of the rock and consumed the meat and the unleavened bread, and the messenger of Yahweh went from his sight. And when Gideon saw that he was a messenger of Yahweh, Gideon said, O master Yahweh, for I have seen a messenger of Yahweh face to face. And Yahweh said to him, Peace be with you, do not fear, you do not die. And Gideon built a slaughter place there to Yahweh, and called it Yahweh Shalom. To this day it is still in Ophrah of the Avi-Ezerites. And the same night it came to be that Yahweh said to him, Take the young bull of your father, and the second bull of 7 years old, and you shall throw down before the slaughter place of Baal that your father has, and cut down the Asherah that is beside it. And you shall build a slaughter place to Yahweh your Elohim on top of this rock in an orderly way, and shall take the second bull and offer a sending offering with the wood of the image which you cut down. And Gideon took 10 men from among his servants and did as Yahweh had said to him. And it came to be, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city too much to do it by day, that he did it by night. And the men of the city arose early in the morning and saw the slaughter place of Baal was broken down, and the Asherah that was beside it had been cut down, and the second bull was being offered on the slaughter place which was built. And they said to each other, Who has done this deed? And when they had inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, son of Joash, has done this deed. And the men of the city said to Joash, Bring out your son, so that he dies, for he has broken the slaughter place of Baal, and because he has cut down the Asherah that was beside it. And Joash said to all who stood against him, You would plead for Baal? Would you save him? Let the one who would plead for him be put to death by morning. If he is a mighty one, let him plead for himself, because his slaughter place has been broken down. So that day he called him Yerubbaal, saying, Let Baal plead against him, because he has broken down his slaughter place. Now all Midian and Amalek and the people of the east were gathered together, and they passed over and encamped in the valley of Israel. Then the Spirit of Yahweh came upon Gideon, and he blew the shofar, while the Avi-Ezerites gathered behind him, and he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, who also gathered behind him. And he sent messengers to Asher, and to Zebulun, and to Naphtali, and they came up to meet him. And Gideon said to Elohim, If you are saving Israel by my hand as you have said, see, I am placing a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece, and it is dry all around the ground, then I shall know that you are saving Israel by my hand, as you have said. And it was so, and he rose early the next morning and pressed the fleece, and wrung dew out of the fleece to fill a bowl of water. And Gideon said to Elohim, Do not be displeased with me, and let me speak only this time. Please Let me try only this time with the fleece. Please let it be dry only on the fleece, and let there be dew on the ground. And Elohim did so that night, and it was dry on the fleece only, but there was dew on all the ground. Chapter 7. And Jerubbaal, that is, Gidon, and all the people who were with him rose up early, and encamped by the fountain of Charoth, so that the camp of Midian was on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And Jehovah said to Gidon, the people who are with you are too many for me to give Midian into their hands, lest Israel boast against me, saying, my own hand has saved me. And now proclaim in the hearing of the people, saying, whoever is afraid and trembling, let him turn back and leave Mount Gilead. And 22,000 of the people turned back, while 10,000 remained. And Jehovah said to Gidon, the people are still too many. Bring them down to the water, and let me prove them for you there. And it shall be that of whom I say to you, this one goes with you, let him go with you. And of whomever I say to you, this one does not go with you, let him not go. So he brought the people down to the water, and Jehovah said to Gidon, everyone who laps the water with his tongue, as a dog laps, separate him from everyone who bows down on his knees to drink. And the number of those who lapped, putting their hand to their mouth, was 300 men. And all the rest of the people bowed down on their knees to drink water. And Jehovah said to Gidon, by the 300 men who lapped I save you, and shall give Midian into your hand. Let all the people go, each to his place. And the people took food and their shofarot in their hands. And he sent away all the rest of Israel, each to his tent, but he held on to those 300 men. Now the camp of Midian was below him in the valley. And it came to be on that night that Jehovah said to him, arise, go down against the camp, for I have given it into your hand. But if you are afraid to go down, you and Purah, your servant, to the camp. And you shall hear what they say, and after that let your hand be strengthened, and you shall go down against the camp. So he went down with Purah, his servant, to the edge of the formation of fives who were in the camp. And Midian and Amalek and all the people of the east were lying in the valley as many as locusts, and their camels were as numerous as the sand by the seashore. And Gidon came, and see, a man was relating a dream to his companion, and said, see, I had a dream, and see, a loaf of barley bread tumbled into the camp of Midian, and it came to a tent and struck it, so that it fell and overturned, and the tent fell down. And his companion answered and said, this is none other than the sword of Gidon, son of Joash, a man of Israel. Elohim has given Midian and all the camp into his hand. And it came to be when Gidon heard this dream related and its interpretation, that he bowed himself down. And he returned to the camp of Israel and said, arise, for Jehovah has given the camp of Midian into your hand. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies, and he put shofarot into the hands of all of them, with empty jars and torches inside the jars. And he said to them, watch me and do likewise, and see, when I come to the edge of the camp, do as I do. And I shall blow with a shofar, I and all those with me. Then you shall also blow with a shofarot round about all the camp, and say, for Jehovah and for Gidon. And Gidon and the 100 men who were with him came to the edge of the camp at the beginning of the middle watch, as they had put but newly posted for the watch. And they blew with the shofarot, and broke the jars that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew with the shofarot, and broke the jars, and held the torches in their left hands, and the shofarot in their right hands for blowing. And they cried, a sword for Jehovah and for Gidon. And each stood in his place round about the camp, and all the army ran and cried out and fled. And the 300 blew the shofarot, and Jehovah set the sword of each one against the other throughout all the camp. And the army fled to Beth Shittah towards Srayah, as far as the border of Avel Mecholah by Tabbath. And the men of Israel were called from Naphtali, and from Asher, and from all Manasseh, and pursued Midian. Then Gidon sent messengers throughout all the mountains of Ephraim, saying, come down to meet Midian. and capture from them the watering places as far as Beth Barah and the Yarden. So all the men of Ephraim were called and captured the watering places as far as Beth Barah and the Yarden. And they captured 2 princes of Midian, Orev and Zeev, and killed Orev at the rock of Orev, and Zeev they killed at the winepress of Zeev, while they pursued Midian. And they brought the heads of Orev and Zeev to Githon beyond the Yarden. Chapter 8. And the men of Ephraim said to him, What is this you have done to us by not calling us when you went to fight with Midian? And they contended with him sharply. And he said to them, What have I done as compared with you? Are the gleanings of Ephraim not better than the grape harvests of Aviezer? Elohim has given into your hands the princes of Midian, Orev, and Zeev. And what was I able to do as compared with you? And when he had said that, their rage toward him subsided. And Githon and the 300 men who were with him came to the Yarden, passing over weary yet pursuing. And he said to the men of Sukkoth, Please give loaves of bread to the people who follow me, for they are weary, and I am pursuing Zevach and Salmunah, sovereigns of Midian. But the leaders of Sukkoth said, Are the hands of Zevach and Salmunah now in your hand, that we should give bread to your army? And Githon said, Because of this, when Yahweh has given Zevach and Salmunah into my hand, I shall tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. And he went from there to Penuel, and spoke to them in the same way. And the men of Penuel answered him as the men of Sukkoth had answered him. So he spoke to the men of Penuel, saying, When I come back in peace, I shall break down this tower. And Zevach and Salmunah were at Karkor, and their armies were with them, about 15,000 men, all who were left of all the army of the people of the east. Now those who had already fallen were 120,000 men who drew the sword. And Githon went up by the way of those who dwelt in tents on the east of Novach and Yochbe'achach, and he struck the camp while the camp was at ease. And Zevach and Salmunah fled, and he pursued them and captured the 2 sovereigns of Midian, Zevach and Salmunah, and shuddered the entire army. And Githon, son of Joash, returned from battle from the ascent of Cheres, and captured a youth of the men of Sukkoth and questioned him. So the youth wrote down for him the leaders of Sukkoth and its elders, 77 men. And he came to the men of Sukkoth and said, See, Zevach and Salmunah, about whom you taunted me, saying, Are the hands of Zevach and Salmunah now in your hand, that we should give bread to your men who are weary? And he took the elders of the city and thorns of the wilderness and briars, and with them he taught the men of Sukkoth a lesson. And he broke down the tower of Penuel and killed the men of the city. And he said to Zevach and Salmunah, How were the men whom you killed at Tavor? So they answered, They were like you. Each one looked like the son of a sovereign. And he said, They were my brothers, the sons of my mother. As Yahweh lives, if you had let them live, I would not kill you. And he said to Yether, his firstborn, Rise, kill them. But the youth would not draw his sword, for he was afraid, because he was still a youth. Then Zevach and Salmunah said, Rise yourself and fall on us. For as a man is, so is his might. So Githon arose and killed Zevach and Salmunah, and took the crescent ornaments which were on their camels' necks. So the men of Israel said to Githon, Rule over us, both you and your son, also your son's son, for you have saved us from the hand of Midian. But Githon said to them, I do not rule over you, nor does my son rule over you. Yahweh does rule over you. And Githon said to them, I have a request to make of you, that each of you give me the ring from his spoil, for they had rings of gold, because they were Ishmaelites. And they said, We shall certainly give them. And they spread out a garment, and each man threw into it the ring from his spoil. And the weight of the gold rings that he requested was 1,700 pieces of gold, besides the crescent ornaments, and the pendants, and purple robes which were on the sovereigns of Midian, and besides the chains that were around the camels' necks. And Githon made it into a shoulder garment, and set it up in his city, Ophrah. And all Israel went whoring after it there, and it became a snare to Gidon and to his house. Thus Midian was humbled before the children of Israel, and they lifted their heads no more. And the land had rest for 40 years in the days of Gidon. And Jerubbaal, son of Joash, went and dwelt in his own house. And Gidon had 70 sons who were his own offspring, for he had many wives. And his concubine who was in Shechem also bore him a son, and he gave him the name Avimelech. And Gidon, son of Joash, died at a good old age, and was buried at the burial site of Joash his father, in Ophrah, the Abiezerites. And it came to be, when Gidon was dead, that the children of Israel again went whoring after the Baals, and made Baal Berith their mighty one. Thus the children of Israel did not remember Yahweh the Elohim, who had delivered them from the hands of all their enemies round about. Nor did they show loving commitment to the house of Jerubbaal, Gidon, according to all the good which he did for Israel. Chapter 9. And Avimelech, son of Jerubbaal, went to Shechem to his mother's brothers, and spoke with them, and with all the clan of the house of his mother's father, saying, Please speak in the hearing of all the masters of Shechem, which is better for you, that 70 men, all the sons of Jerubbaal, rule over you, or that one man rule over you? And you shall remember that I am your own flesh and bone. And his mother's brothers spoke all these words concerning him in the hearing of all the masters of Shechem. And their heart inclined toward Avimelech, for they said, He is our brother. And they gave him 70 pieces of silver from the house of Baal Berith, with which Avimelech hired worthless and reckless men, and they followed him. And he went to his father's house at Ophrah, and killed his brothers, the 70 sons of Jerubbaal, on one stone. But Jotham, the youngest son of Jerubbaal, was left, because he hid himself. And all the masters of Shechem gathered together, and all of Beth Millo, and they went and made Avimelech sovereign beside the terebinth tree at the post that was in Shechem. And they informed Jotham, and he went and stood on top of Mount Gerizim, and lifted his voice and cried out and said to them, Hear me, you masters of Shechem, let Elohim hear you. The trees went forth to anoint a sovereign over them. And they said to the olive tree, Reign over us. And the olive tree said to them, Shall I leave my oil, with which they esteem mighty ones and men, and go to sway over trees? Then the trees said to the fig tree, Come, reign over us. And the fig tree said to them, Shall I leave my sweetness and my good fruit to go sway over trees? Then the tree said to the vine, Come, reign over us. And the vine said, Shall I leave my new wine, which rejoices mighty ones and men, and go sway over trees? Then all the trees said to the bramble, Come, reign over us. And the bramble said to the trees, If in truth you anoint me as sovereign over you, come, take shelter in my shade. But if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. And now, if you have acted in truth and integrity in setting up Avimelech to reign, and if you have acted well with Jerubbaal and his house, and have done to him as his hands did to you, for my father fought for you and risked his life, and delivered you out of the hand of Midian. But you have risen up against my father's house today, and killed his 70 sons on one stone, and set up Avimelech, the son of his female servant, to reign over the masters of Shechem, because he is your brother. If then you have acted in truth and integrity with Jerubbaal and with his house this day, then rejoice in Avimelech, and let him rejoice in you. But if not, let fire come out from Avimelech, and devour the masters of Shechem and Beth Millo, and let fire come out from the masters of Shechem and from Beth Millo, and devour Avimelech. Then Jotham ran away and fled, and he went to Be'er, and dwelt there for fear of Avimelech his brother. And Avimelech governed Israel 3 years. And Elohim sent an evil spirit between Avimelech and the masters of Shechem, and the masters of Shechem acted treacherously against Avimelech, in order that the violence done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and their blood be laid on Avimelech their brother who killed them, and on the masters of Shechem who strengthened his hands to kill his brothers. And the masters of Shechem set men in ambush against him on the tops of the mountains, and they robbed all who passed over by them along that way. And it was reported to Avimelech. And Gaal, son of Eved, came with his brothers and passed over to Shechem, and the masters of Shechem put their trust in him, and went out into the fields and gathered their vineyards and trod out and held a feast. And they went into the house of their mighty one and ate and drank and cursed Avimelech. And Gaal, son of Eved, said, Who is Avimelech, and who is Shechem, that we should serve him? Is he not the son of Jerubbaal, and is not Zebul his officer? Serve the men of Hamor, the father of Shechem, but why should we serve him? If only this people were under my hand, then I would remove Avimelech. And he said to Avimelech, Increase your army and come out. And when Zebul, the governor of the city, heard the words of Gaal, son of Eved, his displeasure burned. And he sent messengers to Avimelech by deceit, saying, See, Gaal, son of Eved, and his brothers have come to Shechem, and see, they are besieging the city against you. And now, get up by night, you and the people who are with you, and lie in wait in the field. And it shall be, as soon as the sun is up in the morning, then rise early and rush upon the city. And see, when he and the people who are with him come out against you, you shall do to them as your hand finds to do. And Avimelech and all the people who were with him rose up by night, and laid in wait against Shechem in 4 companies. Now Gaal, son of Eved, went out and stood in the entrance of the city gate. And Avimelech and the people who were with him rose from lying in wait. And when Gaal saw the people, he said to Zebul, See, people are coming down from the tops of the mountains. But Zebul said to him, You are seeing the shadows of the mountains like men. And Gaal spoke again and said, See, people are coming down from the high part of the land, and another company is coming from the diviner's terebinth tree. And Zebul said to him, Now where is your mouth with which you said, Who is Avimelech, that we should serve him? Are not these the people whom you despised? I beg you, go out and fight them now. So Gaal went out, leading the masters of Shechem, and fought Avimelech. And Avimelech pursued him, and he fled from him, and many fell wounded up to the entrance of the gate. And Avimelech stayed at Arumah, and Zebul drove out Gaal and his brothers, so that they would not dwell in Shechem. And it came to be the next day that the people went out into the field, and they informed Avimelech. And he took his people and divided them into 3 companies, and laid in wait in the field, and looked and saw the people coming out of the city, and he rose against them and struck them. And Avimelech and the company that was with him rushed forward and stood at the entrance of the gate of the city. And the other 2 companies rushed upon all who were in the fields and struck them. And Avimelech fought against the city all that day, and captured the city, and killed the people who were in it, and he broke down the city and sowed it with salt. And all the masters of the tower of Shechem had heard that, and entered into the stronghold of the house of El-Berith. And it was reported to Avimelech that all the masters of the tower of Shechem were gathered together. So Avimelech went up to Mount Salmon, he and all the people who were with him. And Avimelech took an axe in his hand, and cut down a branch from the trees, and took it and laid it on his shoulders. Then he said to the people who were with him, What you have seen me do, hurry, do as I have done. And all the people likewise cut down each one his own branch, and followed Avimelech, and put them against the stronghold, and set the stronghold on fire against them, so that all the men of the tower of Shechem died, about 1,000 men and women. Avimelech then went to Thevetz, and he camped against Thevetz and captured it. However, there was a strong tower in the city, with all the men and women, and all the masters of the city fled there and shut themselves in, and went up to the top of the tower. And Avimelech came to the tower and fought against it, and approached the door of the tower to burn it with fire. But a certain woman dropped an upper millstone on the head of Avimelech, and crushed his skull. He then immediately called the young man, his armor-bearer, and said to him, Draw your sword and kill me, lest men say of me, A woman killed him. And his young man thrust him through, and he died. And when the men of Israel saw that Avimelech was dead, each one went to his own place. Thus did Elohim repay the evil of Avimelech, which he had done to his father to kill his 70 brothers. And all the evil of the men of Shechem, Elohim turned back on their own heads, and the curse of Jotham, son of Yerubbaal, came on them. Chapter 10. And after Avimelech, there arose Tola, son of Puah, son of Dodo, a man of Yisachar, to save Israel. And he dwelt in Shamur, in the mountains of Ephraim. And he ruled Israel 23 years. Then he died and was buried in Shamur. And after him arose Yair, a Gileadite, and he ruled Israel 22 years. And he had 30 sons who rode on 30 donkeys, and they had 30 towns which are called Hawoth Yair to this day, which are in the land of Gilead. And Yair died and was buried in Kamon. And the children of Israel again did evil in the eyes of Yahweh, and served the Baals and the Ashtoreths, and the mighty ones of Aram, and the mighty ones of Sidon, and the mighty ones of Moab, and the mighty ones of the children of Ammon, and the mighty ones of the Philistines, and forsook Yahweh, and did not serve him. Therefore the displeasure of Yahweh burned against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines, and into the hands of the children of Ammon. And they crushed and oppressed the children of Israel that year, for 18 years. All the children of Israel who were beyond the Jordan, in the land of the Amorites, in Gilead. And the children of Ammon passed over the Jordan to fight against Yehudah, and against Benjamin, and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel had great distress. And the children of Israel cried out to Yahweh, saying, We have sinned against you, because we have both forsaken our Elohim, and served the Baals. So Yahweh said to the children of Israel, Was it not from the Mitzrites, and from the Amorites, and from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines that I saved you? And the Sidonians, and Amalek, and Maon oppressed you, and you cried out to me, and I saved you from their hand. But you have forsaken me, and served other mighty ones. Therefore I do not save you again. Go, and cry out to the mighty ones which you have chosen. Let them save you in your time of distress. And the children of Israel said to Yahweh, We have sinned. Do to us whatever is good in your eyes. Only deliver us today, please. So they put away the foreign mighty ones from their midst, and served Yahweh, and his being was grieved with the trouble of Israel. Then the children of Ammon were called together and encamped at Gilead, and the children of Israel gathered together and encamped at Mitzpah. And the people, the heads of Gilead, said to each other, Let the man who is the first to fight against the children of Ammon be head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. Chapter 11. And Yiftach the Gileadite was a mighty brave one, but he was the son of a whore. And Gilead brought forth Yiftach, and the wife of Gilead bore sons. And when his wife's sons grew up, they drove Yiftach out, and said to him, You shall not have an inheritance in the house of our father, for you are the son of another woman. And Yiftach fled from his brothers, and dwelt in the land of Qoph. And worthless men banded together with Yiftach, and went out with him. And it came to be some time later, that the children of Ammon fought against Israel. And it came to be, when the children of Ammon fought against Israel, that the elders of Gilead went to bring Yiftach out of the land of Qoph. And they said to Yiftach, Come, and you shall be our commander, and let us fight against the children of Ammon. But Yiftach said to the elders of Gilead, Did you not hate me, and drive me from my father's house? Why have you come to me now, when you are in trouble? And the elders of Gilead said to Yiftach, That is the reason we have turned to you, that you shall go with us and fight against the children of Ammon, and be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. And Yiftach said to the elders of Gilead, If you take me back home to fight against the children of Ammon, and Yahweh gives them to me, am I to be your head? And the elders of Gilead said to Yiftach, Yahweh is witness between us, if we do not do according to your words. Then Yiftach went with the elders of Gilead, and the people set him over them, as head and commander. And Yiftach spoke all his words before Yahweh in Mitzpah. And Yiftach sent messengers to the sovereign of the children of Ammon, saying, What is between you and me, that you have come to fight against me and my land? And the sovereign of the children of Ammon said to the messengers of Yiftach, Because Israel took my land when they came up out of Mitzrayim, from the Arnon as far as the Yabok, and to the Yarden, and now give back those lands in peace. But Yiftach again sent messengers to the sovereign of the children of Ammon and said to him, This is what Yiftach said, Israel did not take the land of Moab, nor the land of the children of Ammon. For when they came up from Mitzrayim, and Israel walked through the wilderness as far as the Sea of Reeds, and came to Kadesh, then Israel sent messengers to the sovereign of Edom, saying, Please let me pass over through your land. But the sovereign of Edom would not listen. And they also sent to the sovereign of Moab, but he refused. So Israel stayed at Kadesh. Then they went through the wilderness and around the land of Edom and the land of Moab, and came to the east side of the land of Moab, and encamped beyond Arnon. But they did not enter the border of Moab, for Arnon was the border of Moab. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, sovereign of the Amorites, sovereign of Heshbon. And Israel said to him, Please let us pass over through your land into our place. But Sihon did not trust Israel to pass over through his border, and Sihon gathered all his people together, and they encamped in Yahatz, and fought against Israel. And Yehovah Elohim of Israel gave Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they struck them. So Israel took possession of all the land of the Amorites, the inhabitants of that land. Thus they took possession of all the borders of the Amorites from Arnon to the Yabok, and from the wilderness to the Yarden. And now Yehovah Elohim of Israel has driven out the Amorites from before his people Israel. Should you then possess it? Whatever Chemosh your mighty one gives you to possess, do you not possess it? And all that which Yehovah Elohim takes possession of before us, we possess. And now, are you any better than Balak, son of Zippor, sovereign of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel? Did he ever fight against them? While Israel dwelt in Heshbon and its villages, and Aroer and its villages, and in all the cities along the bank of Arnon, for 300 years. Why did you not recover them within that time? So I have not sinned against you, but you are doing me evil by fighting against me. Let Yehovah the judge judge today between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. But the sovereign of the children of Ammon did not listen to the words which Yiftach sent him. And the spirit of Yehovah came upon Yiftach, and he passed through Gilad and Manasseh, and passed through Mitzpah of Gilad. And from Mitzpah of Gilad he passed on toward the children of Ammon. And Yiftach made a vow to Yehovah and said, If you give the children of Ammon into my hands, then it shall be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall belong to Yehovah, and I shall offer it up as an ascending offering. Yiftach then passed on toward the children of Ammon to fight against them, and Yehovah gave them into his hands. And he struck them from Aroer as far as Minith, 20 cities, and to Avel Keramim, with a very great slaughter. Thus the children of Ammon were humbled before the children of Israel. And Yiftach came to his house at Mitzpah, and saw his daughter coming out to meet him with timbrels and dancing. Now except for her he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to be, when he saw her, that he tore his garments and said, O my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are among those who trouble me. And I have given my word to Yehovah, and I am unable to turn back. And she said to him, My father, if you have given your word to Yehovah, do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth, because Yehovah has taken vengeance for you upon your enemies, the children of Ammon. And she said to her father, Let this be done for me. Let me alone for 2 months, and let me go and wander on the mountains and bewail my maidenhood, my friends and I. Then he said, Go. And he sent her away for 2 new moons, and she went with her friends and bewailed her maidenhood on the mountains. And it came to be at the end of 2 new moons that she returned to her father, and he did to her as he vowed, and she knew no man. And it became a statute in Israel that the daughters of Israel went every year for 4 days to lament the daughter of Yiftach the Gileadite. Chapter 12. And the men of Ephraim gathered together, and passed over toward Tzaphon, and said to Yiftach, Why did you pass over to fight against the children of Ammon, and did not call us to go with you? we are going to burn your house over you with fire. And Yiftach said to them, my people and I were in a great struggle with the children of Ammon, and when I called you, you did not save me out of their hands. And I saw that you would not save me. Then I took my life in my hands and went over against the children of Ammon. And Yahweh gave them into my hand. And why have you come up to me today to fight against me? Yiftach then gathered together all the men of Gilead and fought against Ephraim. And the men of Gilead struck Ephraim, because they had said, you Gileadites are fugitives of Ephraim, in the midst of Ephraim, in the midst of Manasseh. And Gilead captured the fords of the Yarden that faced Ephraim. And it came to be, when the fugitives from Ephraim said, let me pass over, the men of Gilead said to him, you are an Ephraimite. If he said no, then they would say to him, please say Shibboleth. And he would say Sibboleth, for he was unable to pronounce it right. Then they seized him and slew him at the fords of the Yarden. And at that time there fell 42,000 Ephraimites. And Yiftach ruled Israel 6 years. And Yiftach the Gileadite died and was buried in one of the cities of Gilead. And after him, If's son of Bethlehem ruled Israel. And he came to have 30 sons and 30 daughters. He sent abroad and brought in 30 daughters for his sons. And he ruled Israel 7 years. And If's son died and was buried at Bethlehem. And after him, Elon the Zebulunite ruled Israel. And he ruled Israel 10 years. And Elon the Zebulunite died and was buried at Elon in the land of Zebulun. And after him, Avdon, son of Hillel the Pirathonite, ruled Israel. And he had 40 sons and 30 grandsons, who rode on 70 young donkeys. And he ruled Israel 8 years. And Avdon, son of Hillel the Pirathonite, died and was buried in Pirathon, in the land of Ephraim, in the mountains of the Amalekites. Chapter 13. And again the children of Israel did evil in the eyes of Yahweh. So Yahweh gave them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. And there was a certain man from Srayah, of the clan of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had not borne. And a messenger of Yahweh appeared to the woman and said to her, see now, you are barren and have not borne, but you shall conceive and you shall bear a son. And now, please guard and do not drink wine or strong drink, and do not eat any unclean food. For look, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and let no razor come upon his head, for the youth is a Nazarite to Elohim from the womb on. And he shall begin to save Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. And the woman came and spoke to her husband, saying, a man of Elohim came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of a messenger of Elohim, very awesome. But I did not ask him where he was from, and he did not declare to me his name. And he said to me, see, you are conceiving and bearing a son, and now drink no wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean food, for the youth is a Nazarite to Elohim from the womb to the day of his death. And Manoah prayed to Yahweh and said, O Yahweh, please let the man of Elohim whom you sent come to us again and teach us what to do for the youth who is to be born. And Elohim listened to the voice of Manoah, and the messenger of Elohim came to the woman again as she was sitting in the field. But Manoah, her husband, was not with her. And the woman ran hurriedly and informed her husband and said to him, see, he has appeared to me, the man who came to me the other day. And Manoah arose and went after his wife, and came to the man and said to him, are you the man who spoke to this woman? And he said, I am. And Manoah said, now let your words come true. What is to be the rule for the youth's life and his work? And the messenger of Yahweh said to Manoah, let the woman guard all that I said to her. Let her not eat any food that comes from the vine, neither let her drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean food. Let her guard all which I have commanded her. And Manoah said to the messenger of Yahweh, please let us detain you and prepare a young goat for you. And the messenger of Yahweh said to Manoah, though you detain me, I do not eat your food, but if you offer an ascending offering, offer it to Yahweh. For Manoah did not know he was a messenger of Yahweh. Then Manoah said to the messenger of Yahweh, what is your name? When your words come true, then we shall esteem you. And the messenger of Yahweh said to him, Why do you ask my name, since it is wondrous? And Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering, and offered it upon the rock to Yahweh. And he did wondrously while Manoah and his wife looked on. And it came to be, as the flame went up toward the heavens from the slaughter place, that the messenger of Yahweh went up in the flame of the slaughter place. And Manoah and his wife were watching, and they fell on their faces to the ground. And the messenger of Yahweh did not appear any more to Manoah and his wife. Then Manoah knew that he was a messenger of Yahweh. And Manoah said to his wife, We shall certainly die, because we have seen Elohim. But his wife said to him, If Yahweh had been pleased to put us to death, he would not have accepted an ascending offering and a grain offering from our hands, nor would he have shown us all this, nor would he have let us hear the like of this. So the woman bore a son, and called his name Shimshon. And the child grew, and Yahweh blessed him. And the spirit of Yahweh began to move him at Machana Dan, between Srayah and Eshtaol. Chapter 14. And Shimshon went down to Timnah, and saw the Philistines. And he went up and informed his father and mother, saying, I have seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines, and now take her for me for a wife. But his father and mother said to him, Is there no woman among the daughters of your brothers, or among all my people, that you should take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? And Shimshon said to his father, Take her for me, for she is pleasing in my eyes. However, his father and mother did not know that it was of Yahweh, that he was seeking an occasion to move against the Philistines. For at that time the Philistines were ruling over Israel. Then Shimshon went down to Timnah with his father and mother, and came to the vineyards of Timnah, and saw a young lion roaring as it met him. And the spirit of Yahweh came mightily upon him, and he tore it apart as the tearing apart of a young goat, with naught in his hand. And he did not make known to his father or his mother what he had done. And he went down and spoke to the woman, and she pleased Shimshon well. And when he returned later to take her, he turned aside to look at the carcass of the lion, and saw a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. And he took some of it in his hands, and went along, eating. And he came to his father and mother, and gave them, and they ate. But he did not make known to them that he took the honey out of the carcass of the lion. So his father went down to the woman, and Shimshon gave a feast there, as young men used to do so. And it came to be, when they saw him, that they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Shimshon said to them, Please let me put forth a riddle to you. If you clearly solve and explain it to me within 7 days of the feast, then I shall give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of garments. But if you are unable to explain it to me, then you shall give me 30 linen shirts and 30 changes of garments. And they said to him, Pour forth your riddle, and let us hear it. And he said to them, Out of the eater came forth food, and out of the strong came forth sweetness. And for 3 days they were unable to explain the riddle. And it came to be on the 7th day. They said to Shimshon's wife, Entice your husband to explain the riddle to us, or else we burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us in order to take what is ours? Is it not? And Shimshon's wife wept before him and said, You only hate me and do not love me. You have put forth a riddle to the sons of my people, but you have not explained it to me. And he said to her, Look, I have not explained it to my father or my mother, and should I explain it to you? And she had wept before him the 7 days while their feast lasted. And it came to be on the 7th day that he informed her, because she pressed him so much. Then she explained the riddle to the sons of her people. And the men of the city said to him on the 7th day before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion? And he said to them, If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved my riddle. Then the spirit of Yahweh came upon him mightily, and he went down to Ashkelon, and struck 30 of their men, stripped them, and gave the changes of garments to those who had explained the riddle. And his displeasure burned, and he went back up to his father's house. And Shimshon's wife was given to his companion, who had been his friend. Chapter 15. And it came to be, after some time, in the days of wheat harvest, that Shimshon visited his wife with a young goat, and he said, Let me go in to my wife into her room. but her father would not permit him to go in. And her father said, "Indeed, I thought that you hated her intensely, so I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister better than she? Please take her instead." And Shimshon said to them, "This time I am blameless regarding the Philistines, if I do evil to them." And Shimshon went and caught 300 foxes, and took torches, and turned them tail to tail, and put a torch between each pair of tails, and set the torches on fire, and sent them out into the standing grain of the Philistines, and burned up both the shocks and the standing grain, even the vineyards and olive trees. And the Philistines said, "Who did this?" And they answered, "Shimshon, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he took away his wife and gave her to his companion." Then the Philistines went up and burned her and her father with fire. And Shimshon said to them, "Though you do this, yet I shall take revenge on you, and after that I cease." And he struck them hip and thigh, a great slaughter, and went down and dwelt in the cleft of the rock of Atam. The Philistines then went up and encamped in Yehudah, and spread out against Lehi. And the men of Yehudah said, "Why have you come up against us?" And they answered, "We have come up to bind Shimshon, to do to him as he has done to us." Then 3,000 men of Yehudah went down to the cleft of the rock of Atam, and said to Shimshon, "Do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? Why have you done this to us?" And he said to them, "As they did to me, so I did to them." And they said to him, "We have come down to bind you, to give you into the hand of the Philistines." And Shimshon said to them, "Swear to me not to fall on me yourselves." And they spoke to him, saying, "No, but we are certainly going to bind you, and give you into their hand, but certainly not kill you." So they bound him with 2 new ropes, and brought him up from the rock. And when he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting to meet him. And the Spirit of Yahweh came mightily upon him, and the ropes that were on his arms became like flax that is burned with fire. And his bonds broke loose from his hands. And he found a fresh jawbone of a donkey, and put out his hand and took it, and struck 1,000 men with it. And Shimshon said, "With the jawbone of a donkey, 1 heap, 2 heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey I have stricken 1,000 men." And it came to be, when he had ended speaking, that he threw the jawbone from his hand, and called that place Ramath Lehi. And he became very thirsty, and cried out to Yahweh, and said, "You have given me this great deliverance by the hand of your servant, and now am I to die of thirst, and fall into the hand of the uncircumcised?" And Elohim split the hollow place that is in Lehi, and water came out, and he drank. And his spirit came back, and he revived. So he called its name En Hakor, which is in Lehi to this day. And he ruled Israel 20 years in the days of the Philistines. Chapter 16. And Shimshon went to Azar, and saw a woman there, a whore, and went in to her. The Azathites, saying, "Shimshon has come here." So they went round and lay in wait for him all night at the gate of the city, and kept silent all night, saying, "In the morning, when it is daylight, then we shall kill him." Now Shimshon lay until midnight, but rose at midnight, and took hold of the doors of the gate of the city, and the 2 gateposts, and pulled them up with the bar, and put them on his shoulders, and took them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. And it came to be afterward that he loved a woman in the Wadi Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the princes of the Philistines came up to her, and said to her, "Entice him, and find out where his great strength lies, and see by what we might overpower him. Then we shall bind him to humble him. And let us give you each one of us 1,100 pieces of silver." And Delilah said to Shimshon, "Please reveal to me where your great strength lies, and by what you might be bound to humble you." And Shimshon said to her, "If they bind me with 7 fresh cords, not yet dried, then I shall be weak and be like any other man." The princes of the Philistines then brought her 7 fresh cords, not yet dried, and she bound him with them, while those lying in wait stayed with her in the room. And she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Shimshon." But he broke the cords as a strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength remained unknown. And Delilah said to Shimshon, "Look, you have mocked me and have spoken lies to me. Now please reveal to me by what you might be bound." And he said to her, "If they bind me tightly with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall be weak and be like any other man." And Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them, and said to him, The Philistines are upon you, Shimshon. And those lying in wait were sitting in the inner room. But he broke them off his arms like a thread. So Delilah said to Shimshon, Until now you have mocked me and spoken lies to me. Reveal to me how you might be bound. And he said to her, If you weave the 7 locks of my hair with the web. Then she fastened it with a pin and said to him, The Philistines are upon you, Shimshon. But he awoke from his sleep and pulled out the pin of the loom and the web. Then she said to him, How do you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times, and have not made known to me where your great strength lies. It came to be when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him, so that his being was wearied to death, that he made known to her all his heart, and said to her, No razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to Elohim from my mother's womb. If I was shaven, then my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man. And Delilah saw that he had made known to her all his heart, and she sent and called for the princes of the Philistines, saying, Come up once more, for he has made known to me all his heart. So the princes of the Philistines came up to her and brought the silver in their hand. And she made him sleep on her knees and called for a man, and shaved off the 7 locks of his head. Thus she began to humble him, and his strength left him. And she said, The Philistines are upon you, Shimshon. And he woke from his sleep and said, Let me go out as before at other times and shake myself loose. But he did not know that Yahweh had turned aside from him. So the Philistines took him and put out his eyes and brought him down to Azar and bound him with bronze shackles, and he became a grinder in the prison. But the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaven. And the princes of the Philistines gathered to slaughter a great slaughtering to Dachon, their mighty one, and to rejoice. And they said, Our mighty one has given Shimshon our enemy into our hands. And the people saw him and praised their mighty one, for they said, Our mighty one has given into our hands our enemy, the destroyer of our land, who slew many of us. And it came to be, when their hearts were glad, that they said, Call for Shimshon and let him entertain us. So they called for Shimshon from the prison, and he entertained them. And they made him stand between the columns. And Shimshon said to the young man who was holding his hand, Let me alone, and let me feel the columns which support the house, so that I lean on them. And the house was filled with men and women, and all the princes of the Philistines were there. And about 3,000 men and women were on the roof who watched Shimshon entertaining. And Shimshon called to Yahweh, saying, O Master Yahweh, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me, I pray, only this time, O Elohim, and let me avenge myself on the Philistines with vengeance for my 2 eyes. And Shimshon took hold of the 2 middle columns which supported the house, and he braced himself against them, one on his right and the other on his left. And Shimshon said, Let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself mightily, and the house fell on the princes and all the people in it. And the dead that he killed at his death was more than he had killed in his life. And his brothers and all his father's household came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Srayah and Eshtaol in the burial site of his father Manoach. And he had ruled Israel 20 years. Chapter 17. And there was a man from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Michahu. And he said to his mother, The 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, and on which you put a curse, even saying it in my ears, Look, the silver is with me, I took it. And his mother said, Blessed of Yahweh be my son. And he gave back the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. And his mother said, I had truly set apart the silver from my hand to Yahweh for my son, to make a carved image and a moulded image, and now I give it back to you. And he gave the silver back to his mother, and his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave them to the silversmith. And he made it into a carved image and a moulded image, and they were in the house of Michahu. Now the man Micha had a house of mighty ones, and made a shoulder garment and house idols. And he ordained one of his sons, who became his priest. In those days there was no sovereign in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. And there was a young man from Bethlehem of Yehudah, of the clan of Yehudah, and he was a Levite, and he was sojourning there. And the man went out of the city of Bethlehem in Yehudah to sojourn wherever he could find a place. And he came to the mountains of Ephraim, to the house of Micha, as he journeyed. And Micha said to him, Where do you come from? And he said to him, I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Yehudah, and I am on my way to find a place to sojourn. And Micha said to him, Dwell with me, and be a father and a priest to me, and I give you 10 pieces of silver every year, and a suit of garments, and your food. And the Levite went in. So the Levite agreed to dwell with the man, and the young man became like one of his sons to him. Then Micha ordained the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and he was in the house of Micha. And Micha said, Now I know that Yahweh does good to me, since I have a Levite as priest. Chapter 18. In those days there was no sovereign in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the Danites was seeking an inheritance for itself to dwell in. For until that day all their inheritance among the tribes of Israel had not yet fallen to them. And the children of Dan sent 5 men of their clan, brave men from Ssarah and Eshtaol, to spy out the land and search it. And they said to them, Go, search the land. So they went to the mountains of Ephraim, to the house of Micha, and spent the night there. When they were near the house of Micha, they recognized the voice of the young Levite, and turned aside and said to him, Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place, and what do you have here? And he said to them, Micha did such and such for me, and he hired me, and I have become his priest. And they said to him, Please inquire of Elohim, and we shall know whether the journey on which we are going is prosperous. And the priest said to them, Go in peace. Your journey on which you go is before Yahweh. Then the 5 men left and came to Laish, and saw the people who were in their midst, how they dwelt safely, according to the ruling of the Sidonians, at rest and unsuspecting. And no one possessing authority in the land was reproaching for any matter. And they were far from the Sidonians, and they had no word with anyone. And the spies came back to their brothers at Ssarah and Eshtaol, and their brothers said to them, What do you say? And they said, Arise, and let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and look, it is very good. And you sit still. Do not hesitate to go to enter in to possess the land. When you go, you are to come to an unsuspecting people, and the land is spacious, for Elohim has given it into your hands, a place in which there is no lack for any matter which is on the earth. And 600 men of the clan of the Danites went from there, from Ssarah and Eshtaol, armed for battle. And they went up and encamped in Kiriath Yearim in Yehudah. Therefore they call that place Mahana Dan to this day. See, it is west of Kiriath Yearim. And they passed over from there to the mountains of Ephraim, and came to the house of Micha. And the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land of Laish answered and said to their brothers, Do you know that there are in these houses a shoulder garment, and house idols, and a carved image, and a moulded image? And now you know what to do. And they turned aside there, and came to the house of the young Levite man, the house of Micha, and greeted him. And the 600 men, armed for battle, who were of the children of Dan, stood by the entrance of the gate. And the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land went up, and entering there, they took the carved image, and the shoulder garment, and the house idols, and the moulded image, while the priest stood at the entrance of the gate with the 600 men who were armed for battle. And these went into Micha's house, and took the idol, and the shoulder garment, and the house idols, and the moulded image. Then the priest said to them, What are you doing? And they said to him, Be silent, put your hand over your mouth, and come with us, and be a father and a priest to us. Is it better for you to be priest to the household of one man, or that you be a priest to a tribe and a clan in Israel? And the heart of the priest was glad. And he took the shoulder garment, and the house idols, and the carved image, and took his place among the people. And they turned and went, and put the little ones, and the livestock, and the valuables in front of them. They had gone some distance from the house of Micha, when the men who were in the houses near Micha's house gathered together and overtook the children of Dan, and called out to the children of Dan. So they turned around and said to Micha, "What is the matter, that you have gathered such a company?" And he said, "You have taken away my mighty ones which I made, and the priest, and you are leaving. Now what more do I have? What is this you say to me? What is the matter?" And the children of Dan said to him, "Do not let your voice be heard among us, lest men, bitter of being, fall upon you, and you lose your life with the lives of your household." And the children of Dan went their way. And when Micha saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his house. Then they took what Micha had made, and the priest who had belonged to him, and went to Laish, to a people who were at rest and unsuspecting, and struck them with the edge of the sword, and burned the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Sidon, and they had no word with anyone. And it was in the valley that belongs to Beth Rechov, and they rebuilt the city and dwelt there. And they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born to Yisrael. But previously the name of the city was Laish. And the children of Dan set up for themselves the carved image. And Jehonathan, son of Gershom, son of Manasseh, and his sons were priests to the tribe of Dan, until the day the land was taken into exile. And they set up for themselves the carved image of Micha, which he had made, all the days that the house of Elohim was in Shilo. Chapter 19. And it came to be in those days, when there was no sovereign in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the further side of the mountains of Ephraim. And he took for himself a concubine from Bethlehem in Yehudah. And his concubine committed whoring against him, and went away from him to her father's house at Bethlehem in Yehudah, and was there 4 new moons of days. And her husband arose and went after her, to speak to her heart and bring her back, having his servant and a couple of donkeys with him. And she brought him into her father's house, and the father of the young woman saw him, and was glad to meet him. And his father-in-law, the young woman's father, took hold of him, and he dwelt with him 3 days. And they ate and drank and spent the nights there. And it came to be on the 4th day that they arose early in the morning, and he prepared to leave. But the young woman's father said to his son-in-law, "Refresh your heart with a piece of bread, and afterward go your way." So they sat down, and the 2 of them ate and drank together. And the young woman's father said to the man, "Please agree to stay all night, and let your heart be glad." And when the man arose to go, his father-in-law urged him, so he spent the night there again. And he arose early in the morning on the 5th day to go. But the young woman's father said, "Please refresh your heart." So they delayed until afternoon, and both of them ate. And the man arose to go, he and his concubine and his servant. But his father-in-law, the young woman's father, said to him, "See, the day is now drawing toward evening. Please spend the night. See, the day is coming to an end. Stay here, and let your heart be glad. And you shall rise early tomorrow for your journey, and you shall go to your tent." But the man would not stay that night, and he arose and left, and came to a place opposite Yevus, that is, Yerushalayim. And with him were the 2 saddled donkeys, and his concubine with him. They were near Yevus, and the day was far spent. And the servant said to his master, "Come, please, and let us turn aside into this city of the Jebusites, and spend the night in it." And his master said to him, "Let us not turn aside here into a city of foreigners, who are not of the children of Israel, but we shall pass over to Giv'ah." And he said to his servant, "Come, let us draw near to one of these places, and spend the night in Giv'ah, or in Ramah." And they passed over and went their way. and the sun went down on them near Giv'ah, which belongs to Benjamin. And they turned off there to go in to spend the night in Giv'ah. So he went in, and he sat down in the open square of the city, for no one would take them into his house to spend the night. But see, an old man came in from his work in the field at evening, who was also from the mountains of Ephraim, and he was sojourning in Giv'ah, whereas the men of the place were Benjamites. And when he lifted up his eyes, he saw the traveller in the open square of the city. And the old man said, Where are you going? And where do you come from? And he said to him, We are passing over from Bethlehem in Yehudah to the other side of the mountains of Ephraim. I am from there, and I went to Bethlehem in Yehudah, and I am going to the house of Yahweh. But there is no one taking me into his house. Yet there is both straw and fodder for our donkeys, and bread and wine for myself and for your female servant, and for the young man who is with your servant. There is no lack of any matter. And the old man said, Peace be with you. However, let all your needs be on me, only do not spend the night in the open square. And he brought him into his house, and gave fodder to the donkeys, and they washed their feet, and ate and drank. They were making their hearts glad, and see, men of the city, sons of Belial, surrounded the house, beating on the door. And they spoke to the master of the house, the old man, saying, Bring out the man who came to your house, so that we know him. But the man, the master of the house, went out to them and said to them, No, my brothers, I beg you, do no evil. Since this man has come into my house, do not do this folly. Look, here is my maiden daughter and the man's concubine. Let me bring them out now and humble them, and do with them what is good in your eyes. But do not do such a foolish matter to this man. But the men would not listen to him. So the man took hold of his concubine and brought her out to them. And they knew her, and rolled themselves on her all night until morning, and let her go when the day began to break. And as the morning appeared, the woman came back and fell down at the door of the man's house where her master was, till it was light. And her master rose up in the morning, and opened the doors of the house, and went to go his way, and saw his concubine fallen at the door of the house with her hands on the threshold. And he said to her, Rise up, and let us go. But there was no answer. Then he took her on the donkey, and the man rose and went to his place, and came to his house, and took a knife, then took hold of his concubine, and cut her up limb by limb into 12 pieces, and sent her throughout all the borders of Israel. And it came to be that all who saw it said, There has never been, and there has not been since the like of this, from the day that the children of Israel came up from the land of Mitzrayim until this day. Set your heart on it, take counsel, and speak up. Chapter 20. And all the children of Israel came out, from Dan to Beersheba, and from the land of Gilead, and the congregation assembled as one man before Yahweh at Mizpah. And the leaders of all the people, all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of Elohim, 400,000 foot soldiers who drew the sword. And the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel had gone up to Mizpah. And the children of Israel said, Speak up, how did this evil come about? And the man, the Levite, husband of the woman who was murdered, answered and said, My concubine and I went into Giv'ah, which belongs to Benjamin, to spend the night. And the masters of Giv'ah rose against me and surrounded the house at night because of me. They thought to kill me, but instead they humbled my concubine, and she died. Then I took my concubine and cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout all the land of the inheritance of Israel, because they committed wickedness and folly in Israel. Look, you are all children of Israel. Speak and give your counsel here. And all the people rose as one man, saying, Let not one of us go to his tent, nor any of us turn back to his house. And now, this is what we do to Giv'ah. Go against it by lot. And we shall take 10 men out of every 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of every 1,000, and 1,000 out of every 10,000, to make food for the people, to prepare for their going to Giv'ah in Benjamin, for all the folly they did in Israel. And all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. And the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, What is this evil that has come about among you? And now give us the men, the sons of Belial, who are in Giv'ah, so that we put them to death and put away evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brothers, the children of Israel. So the children of Benjamin gathered together from their cities to Giv'ah, to go to battle against the children of Israel. And from their cities at that time the children of Benjamin registered 26,000 men who drew the sword, besides the inhabitants of Giv'ah, who registered 700 chosen men. Among all this people there were 700 chosen men who were left-handed. Each one could sling a stone at a hair's breadth and not miss. And besides Benjamin, the men of Israel registered 400,000 men who drew the sword. All of these were men of battle. And the children of Israel rose and went up to Bethel to ask of Elohim, and they said, Who of us go up first to battle against the children of Benjamin? And Yahweh said, Yehudah first. And the children of Israel rose in the morning and encamped against Giv'ah. And the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin, and the men of Israel put themselves in battle array to fight against them at Giv'ah. And the children of Benjamin came out of Giv'ah, and on that day cut down to the ground 22,000 men of Israel. But the people, the men of Israel, strengthened themselves, and again formed the battle line at the place where they had put themselves in array on the first day. And the children of Israel went up and wept before Yahweh until evening, and asked of Yahweh, saying, Should I again draw near for battle against the children of my brother Benjamin? And Yahweh said, Go up against him. And the children of Israel drew near to the children of Benjamin on the second day. And Benjamin went out against them from Giv'ah on the second day, and cut down to the ground 18,000 more of the children of Israel. All these drew the sword. And the children of Israel, even all the people, went up and came to Bethel, and wept, and sat there before Yahweh, and fasted that day until evening. And they offered ascending offerings and peace offerings before Yahweh. And the children of Israel asked Yahweh. The ark of the covenant of Elohim was there in those days, and Pinchas, son of Eleazar, son of Aharon, stood before it in those days, saying, Should I yet again go out to battle against the children of my brother Benjamin, or should I cease? And Yahweh said, Go up, for tomorrow I give them into your hand. And Israel set ambushes all around Giv'ah. And the children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day, and put themselves in battle array against Giv'ah, as at other times. And the children of Benjamin came out to meet the people, drawn away from the city. And they began to strike some of the people, slaying, as at other times, in the highways, of which one went up to Bethel, and the other to Giv'ah, in the field, about 30 men of Israel. And the children of Benjamin said, They are going to be smitten before us as previously. But the children of Israel said, Let us flee, and draw them away from the city to the highways. And all the men of Israel rose from their place, and put themselves in battle array at Baal Tamar. And the ambush of Israel broke forth from their position at Ma'arah Ivah. And 10,000 chosen men from all Israel came against Giv'ah, and the battle was fierce. But they did not know that calamity was close to them. And Yahweh smote Benjamin before Israel. And the children of Israel destroyed 25,100 men on that day in Benjamin. All these drew the sword. And the children of Benjamin saw that they were smitten. And the men of Israel down to the Benjamites, because they trusted in the ambush that they had set against Giv'ah. And the ambush hurried and came against Qoph, and the ambush spread out and struck the entire city with the edge of the sword. And the appointed signal between the men of Israel and the ambush was that they would make a great cloud of smoke rise up from the city. Then the men of Israel would turn in battle, and Benjamin began to strike dead about 30 of the men of Israel, for they said, "They are indeed smitten before us, as at the first battle." Then the cloud began to rise from the city in a column of smoke, and the Benjamites looked behind them and saw the entire city going up in smoke to the heaven. And when the men of Israel turned back, the men of Benjamin were troubled, for they saw that calamity was close to them. And they turned their backs before the men of Israel toward the way of the wilderness, but the battle overtook them, while those who had come out of the cities were destroying them in their midst. They surrounded the Benjamites and pursued them, and with ease trampled them down as far as the front of Qoph toward the east. And there fell of Benjamin 18,000 men. All of these were mighty men. And they turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and they cut down 5,000 of them on the highways, and followed after them to Githom, and struck 2,000 of them. And all who fell of Benjamin that day were 25,000 men who drew the sword. All of these were mighty men. But 600 men turned and fled toward the wilderness of the rock of Rimmon, and they dwelt at the rock of Rimmon for 4 new moons. And the men of Israel turned back against the children of Benjamin, and struck them with the sword from every city, men and beasts, all who were found, and they set fire to all the cities they came to. Chapter 21. And all the men of Israel had sworn an oath at Mizpah, saying, "Not one of us shall give his daughter to Benjamin as a wife." So the people came to Bethel, and sat there until evening before Elohim, and lifted up their voices and wept bitterly, and said, "O Yehovah, Elohim of Israel, why has this come about in Israel, that today there should be one tribe missing in Israel?" And it came to be on the morrow that the people rose early and built a slaughter place there, and brought ascending offerings and peace offerings. And the children of Israel said, "Who is there among all the tribes of Israel who did not come up with the assembly to Yehovah?" For they had made a great oath concerning anyone who had not come up to Yehovah at Mizpah, saying, "He shall certainly be put to death." And the children of Israel were sorry for Benjamin their brother, and said, "One tribe is cut off from Israel today. What do we do for wives for those who remain, seeing we have sworn by Yehovah not to give them our daughters as wives?" And they said, "Which one of the tribes of Israel did not come up to Mizpah to Yehovah?" And see, no one had come to the camp from Yavesh Gilead to the assembly. For when the people called a roll, see, not one of the inhabitants of Yavesh Gilead was there. And the congregation sent out there 12,000 of their bravest men, and commanded them, saying, "Go, and you shall strike the inhabitants of Yavesh Gilead with the edge of the sword, even the women and children. And this is what you do: put under the ban every male, and every woman who has known a man by lying with him." And they found among the inhabitants of Yavesh Gilead 400 young maidens who had not known a man, and they brought them to the camp at Shilo, which is in the land of Canaan. Then all the congregation sent, and spoke to the children of Benjamin, who were at the rock of Ribbon, and proclaimed peace to them. And Benjamin turned back at that time, and they gave them the women whom they had saved alive of the women of Yavesh Gilead. But even so, there were not enough for them. And the people were sorry for Benjamin, because Yehovah had made a breach in the tribes of Israel. And the elders of the congregation said, "What do we do for wives for those who remain, since the women have been destroyed out of Benjamin?" And they said, "There is an inheritance for the survivors of Benjamin, and no tribe is to be destroyed from Israel. But we are unable to give them wives from our daughters, for the children of Israel have sworn an oath, saying, 'Cursed be the one who gives a wife to Benjamin.'" So they said, "See, there is a yearly festival of Yehovah in Shiloh, which is north of Bethel, on the east side of the highway that goes up from Bethel to Shechem, and south of Levonah. And they commanded the children of Benjamin, saying, Go, lie in wait in the vineyards, and watch, and see when the daughters of Shilo come out to perform their dances, then you shall come out from the vineyards, and every man catch a wife for himself from the daughters of Shilo, and go to the land of Benjamin. And it shall be, when their fathers or their brothers come to us to complain, that we shall say to them, Favour us with them, because we did not take a wife for any of them in battle, neither have you given them to them, making yourselves guilty of your oath. And the children of Benjamin did so, and took enough wives for their number from those who danced, whom they caught. And they went and returned to their inheritance, and they rebuilt the cities and dwelt in them. And the children of Israel went from there at that time, each one to his tribe and clan. And they went from there, each one to his inheritance. In those days there was no sovereign in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes.